Who wants to start?
Did Otto Porter Jr. go through a full practice?
He did. Yeah, he looked good. I just talked to him. He said he feels good. I would say he's probable for game one.
Just guess your reaction to what you saw in Game 7 last night. Shocking, or just to sometimes game.
Surprised me that Dallas won. They're a hell of a team. And that series, I mean, you had two great teams. Obviously, a series of those pretty evenly matched. So the differential was shocking. You know, you just don't expect to see that. But one of those nights, you know, we've all been on the other side of those things. We were last week when we lost by 39 to Memphis. You know, Dallas was just really impressive, played a perfect game, and they'll come in here with a lot of confidence, I'm sure, in game one.
Oh, sorry. Stephen earned his degree yesterday, and commencement was yesterday. He didn't go through it, but what does that say about his work to finish his college degree? And Gary also told us that he's maybe a month away. He's finished state here soon, and it just seems to say a lot about what these guys do away from the basketball.
Yeah,
court.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. You know, we have guys who are really conscientious about world basketball and their impact. You know, in their communities, and also, you know, Steph is a really curious guy. He's constantly trying to expand his horizons, and, you know, getting his college degree was really important to him. So I think it's fantastic. And same with Gary. I mean, it's wonderful when you see guys go back and finish up.
There's some similarities. I mean, obviously not all, but there are some similarities between Luka and the James Harden of the Rockets days, in the sense that, you know, they kind of try to control the tempo and stuff. What are the challenges that you face dealing with Luka, and how are they different from maybe what you had to deal with a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Dallas team is very similar to Houston from a few years ago, you know, with the 5-out spacing, you know, 5 shooters on the floor. This team has 3 playmakers, you know, with Brunson and Dinwiddie, along with Doncic. But very similar teams, similar challenge in terms of you got to guard the ball, you got to stay in front. If they break you down, your help is just much more difficult because you're coming from so far away, and there's nobody to cheat off of because they can all shoot. So they pose a really unique threat and put a lot of pressure on you. And obviously, Doncic is a tremendous player and can beat you in a lot of different ways, and really smart. I think very similar to Harden in that regard. So yeah, we've got a big challenge.
How much do you expect them to target? They seem maybe more than anybody in the league to target certain defenders. How much do you expect after Steph and Jordan, and how much do you guys need to avoid letting those guys get in isolation situations?
Yeah, I think that will happen. That's been their pattern in the first 2 rounds, so they'll for sure attack us in a similar way. I think this series, more than the first 2 series for us, we're going to have to adapt and adjust as we go. So, you know, we'll go into game 1 with a game plan, but I think we need a lot of contingencies depending on how things are unfolding within the game. But we're definitely preparing for all the stuff you just mentioned, and we're going to have to be really, really sharp to win the game.
A couple months ago, you're saying how the way that Jonathan was playing, he earned your trust to kind of have moments and opportunities in the playoffs. He started a couple games last series. Did his performance last series kind of continue that earned trust to say, you know, maybe you are going to see some, you know, big defense matchups in this series?
Yeah, I mean, there's Jonathan is absolutely an option for us, especially a series like this where, you know, there's so much ground to cover. You need athleticism, you need defensive versatility. So JK is a real option for us to utilize. We've been able to watch obviously the 4 regular season games against Dallas, and he had his moments during those games. So he's a part of the game plan for sure.
Steve, what do you think when you see Draymond put his head down and go to the basket to like score? Like, it's obviously something that really helps you, but as you're watching it, are you thinking like, yeah, Draymond is?
I see victory. I love aggressive Draymond. That's the best version of him. And everybody plays him differently. The beauty of the playoffs is that every team has different personnel. Memphis played a pretty unique defense against us. They gave us some problems, but at last game, his aggressiveness was really important in terms of breaking down some of the ways that Memphis was defending us. So that's the Draymond we want, and we're going to continue to encourage him to be super aggressive.
What are your thoughts on Jalen Brunson and the season he had and what he kind of means to this Mavs team?
Yeah, Jalen's a hell of a player. It's funny, I played with his dad in Portland in 2001, 2002, and my wife and I last night were trying to picture him in the kids' room. You know, he was probably 2 years old or something, and we asked our son, did he beat you to the rim and knock you down when he was 2 years old? Because he's he is a really strong driver. He's just a bull, and he's become a hell of a player. Big part of their attack. That's the thing, is that you can prepare yourself for Doncic, but you got to be ready for Brunson and Dinwiddie as well. They got multiple playmakers. So a hell of a year, and we definitely have to defend him well.
You could see Steph especially really seemed pleased that Wiggins was happy, that he was looking at Wiggins and wants him to smile. What does Wiggins mean to these guys? Is it just enjoyment from his play? Is his personality? What do you see kind of the back and forth with Andrew and everybody else?
I think it's a combination of number one, everybody loves Wiggs. And how could you not? He's just, he's such a wonderful teammate and human being, just a beautiful spirit about him. So I think people want him to succeed. I think there's a sense that he's got another level in the league to reach, and that when you see those guys pushing him, they're trying to push him to the next level. And I think what we've seen over the last 2 rounds with his defense, his rebounding, is Wiggs expanding his game and expanding his place in the league. I think he's gaining respect by the game. Everyone knew he could score because he did a lot of that in the early part of his career. But now he's on a team where maybe he doesn't have to carry that load. So turning to him for on-ball defense against the best players, rebounding, attacking the rim with his athleticism, timely buckets like he had the other night. Those are all winning attributes. And I think the guys recognize that and his importance to the team effort. We'd be in big trouble without Wiggs, honestly. And I think you throw all that into the pot, and everybody, all the vets, especially Steph, Clay, Draymond, Loon, they just, they encourage him. They cheer for him. They love him. It's been really fun to watch all that unfold.
To follow up on Wiggins, the Wiggins we see is very quiet. What is he like with team? And do you think back to when the trade first brought him here? What is he like from that day to now? Is there a shell that he's come out of?
He's very quiet internally too. But he always has a smile on his face. He always embraces whatever role we ask of him. He just competes. He plays. Zero maintenance. So, and the availability is so underrated, and when you think about how many or how few games he's missed in his career. He's there for you every single night. And that can't be overstated.
Is he coming up for? I know, but when's Paul coming? Oh.
No, but the beer mug that I was drinking my beer out of was close to being shattered after a few of those turnovers.
The Warriors kind of back to some momentum that the team has today, and just that Dallas series, and it was one of the bigger shockers of NBA playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in broadcasting at the time. I did the game 6 finale in that series, and I think I probably said it on the air. It was the loudest arena I had ever heard in my life. Oracle was just going crazy, and such a great moment in Warriors history, and a devastating one, obviously, in Mavs history, given that I think they won 67 games that year. But I think, the thing that we take pride in here is we've got a lot of history. Maybe we're not the Celtics or the Lakers where it's like 40 years of hanging banners, but a lot of great history with the Warriors. There's a real vibe with this organization that has resonated with the fan base, that has resonated in the Bay Area. There's a love affair that's there. And you could feel it that night when the Warriors knocked off Dallas. So, and obviously over the last, 15 years since then, a lot of great things have happened to the franchise. I don't know how to connect all that, but I know that that's a season that our fans will never forget.
What did you think of Dallas's defensive discipline, their switchability, especially in the last 5 games against Phoenix? Just what kind of challenges does that pose for an offense?
They're a really good defense. It's an underrated aspect of all this. But anybody who played against them during the year really paid attention. You see the switchability, the versatility they have defensively, the strength of guys like Finney Smith, Kleba, Bullock. They've got a really good modern day defensive lineup that they can throw at you. And Jason has done an incredible job. You could see defensive changes he made, not only during the season, but during playoffs. I think Jason has a great feel for that team. I think the continuity that they have is really underrated. I know over the last 4 or 5 years, the Mavericks have been developing Finney Smith and Kleba, and I remember talking to Rick Carlisle a year ago, just asking him about their development and how much I admired the fact that they took these 2 guys who really weren't highly thought of 4 years ago. Look at how much better they've gotten year after year after year. And now it's kind of all coming to fruition, and the timing is perfect because Luka is playing at such a high level. So I think they've just done a really good job organizationally of doing continuity, developing a defensive mindset and the personnel that requires.
How do you view Looney's role in this series? Obviously, when Powell's on the floor, but even when they take Powell off the floor and spread it.
Loon will play a big role. He's one of our best defenders. He played well against Dallas in the regular season. We'll see what that means in terms of our combinations and starters and all that. We're still kind of evaluating everything since we just found out last night, what the matchup would be. So we'll continue to prepare the next couple of days. The Loon will play a big role.
All right, a couple on Zoom. Scott Osler, go ahead.
Yeah, Steve, you mentioned turnovers a minute ago. I know you guys play a fairly high-risk style anyway, but it seems like the turnovers maybe got out of hand against Memphis. What are you guys doing to address that? And what do you consider acceptable and not acceptable turnovers?
I'm doing the opposite theory. if you're a Seinfeld fan, you remember like Costanza did everything the exact opposite of what he's supposed to do, and life turned out great for him. I'm doing Costanza this series. I'm not even mentioning turnovers. So every other series, it's, number one key. Well, not even going to bring it up.
Okay.
Perfect answer for your column, Scott.
Thank you.
Mark Haynes, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, each opponent that you had thus far from Memphis, Denver, and now Dallas, y'all lost to them in the season series 3-1. Do you think not having Draymond, Clay, and Steph available at first, obviously it sounds like a bad thing. Do you think it's kind of turning into a good thing that teams weren't able to see them early in the year and now they're kind of getting hit by surprise somewhat?
It's an interesting perspective. I haven't thought about it a ton, Mark, but all I know is that we really missed having them together in the regular season, and that's one of the reasons we struggled against all three teams going 1 and 3. So it's great to have them now. We do have a little different look, I would say, given that they're all healthy. If it's an advantage because teams hadn't seen this version of us, then that's great. But I'm not really sure if that's the case or not. But it's an interesting perspective.
All right, final one. Let's go to Maria. Go ahead.
Hi, Steve. Hope you're well. Nice to see you back. You're welcome. I would like to ask you about Lucas. How would you describe his job? I mean, his dominance in these playoffs, considering that he's just 23 years old.
Yeah, he's a really unique player, and clearly one of the very best players in the league. I think the ability to shoot the step back three and also get to the rim and pass the ball so well makes him a really difficult cover. And got a lot of confidence. He feeds his players' confidence. You can see that. There's a good vibe on that team. There's a good spirit. And there's a reason they're here in the conference finals. You get to the last 4 teams and talking about the best teams in the league. So, every best team in the league has to have at least one superstar player, one of the best players in the league. You don't get this far without that. And Dallas is talented, and they got a lot of guys, but he's obviously he's their guy. Speaking of superstars,